Hey everybody, this is Councilor Curtis. This is Jimmy Doane Show. We are here. I'm here with Jimmy Doane.
Hi there.
And we are coming to you live on YouTube twice a week these days. I hope you're listening to us live. We come on 4 p.m. on Wednesdays and Sundays, Eastern Standard Time. So search for us at Jimmy Doane, D-O-A-N-E. And what you can do, what we're going to try to do, we'll try something different this time. We don't know exactly, we don't have anybody monitoring our comments. So, but if you leave some comments, what we'll do is we'll pause the show halfway through, 60 seconds, and then we will check and see if there's any comments, and if so, we'll answer them for you and go from there. We'll try that one time, see how that works. Anyways, today's July 1st, 2018, so how's it going, Dr. Doane?
Yes, it's going well. We're doing well. Good weather. We're having good weather here, except a little rain almost every afternoon. It's flooding.
Yeah, man, it has been coming down.
It's been coming down. Frog stranglers, as we call them here.
No shortage of water.
Yeah. So anyway, this week is July 4th. Now, it's interesting. Are they going to, the 4th is what, Wednesday?
Yeah.
Now, when are they going to celebrate it, I wonder?
Different people, different times. A lot of people on the 4th. But like our city does the 3rd. Here we do the fireworks on the 3rd, so the students can go home.
How are people are going to take certain days off, right?
Hopefully.
I mean, wouldn't you like to have a nice long weekend starting on Wednesday?
Yeah.
Through, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, Wednesday's almost too long to justify.
I know. 2
days on either side, really,
so,
for most people.
I don't know what they're going to do. It doesn't really matter that much.
Take off a hump day.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it'll be interesting. We're gonna be out of town. We should be back by Wednesday, though.
Yes, we are going to try to do a special 4th of July show.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't decided exactly. Maybe we'll cover a big topic like the economy or something in detail.
Something esoteric.
Yeah, or freedom-related stuff like flag burning or freedom of speech or something.
That's right. Okay. Well, anyway, let's go on with the news.
Yes.
Basically, the news of the week is a continuation of what we talked about Wednesday. Some of it, and that has to do with the first item on my list is the resignation of the justice on the Supreme Court.
Oh, okay. You want to go back to that?
Yeah, just for a second.
Okay.
Because we're talking about Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And
what?
Believe it or not, yes. Well, here's the reason why.
Okay.
The thinking had been that what's his name?
Kennedy
was going to hold on, see if he could hold on until there could be a.
But Ruth announced she was going to hold on, right?
Right. Well, except for the fact, think about it for a second. And and it's interesting. They had a picture of her in the paper doing Pilates or something. Or
planking.
Planking. So apparently she's in fabulous shape. Yeah. I mean, for 83, no?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But here's the deal. Assuming for a moment, which maybe is a rash assumption, but if Trump gets the 2020, re-up.
Right. She won't make it till
I don't think she's going to make it. We're talking about another 6 years here. She's 83.
It's a long time, yeah.
And she has to make it
89. I think we've had justices in the...
No, we have had one or two. We had one or two that made it to 93.
Okay, there you go.
But still, the point is
that
you're stretching
6 year more technology, medicine.
Right. Well, that's right. Maybe she'll be in a
nanobot injection.
Yeah. Well,
certainly going to get the best of care,
and no question about it. And maybe the singularity. She'll go into a computer, and
they'll just substitute a computer for her on there.
That's right.
It'll be Ruth Bader computer.
That's right. So anyway, I thought it was interesting that. Let's see. What's interesting? What this note in the paper said: most Americans retire at age 65 or before, or if you're in the government service, age 50. Sometime, you 30 years and out on some of this stuff. And here, these guys are all lasting well up into their 80s, and which is what happens. So we're going to see now. This Thursday, I believe, is going to be. I think that's going to the 4th, the 7th, maybe it's Friday. Trump is supposed to announce his pick.
Really?
Yes. Now, what's happened, of course, is that the big complaint has been since
Kennedy,
not Kennedy,
Scalia,
Mitch McConnell postponed, didn't allow the vote to come for the guy that didn't
Garland
that Obama had nominated, and so they said, well, maybe we'll try the same thing. Well, no. ain't going to happen. You know, that was one thing that was a presidential election year.
And it was just a few months before the election.
It was like 11. Well, I know, but still, it was like
retired.
Yeah, it was a total. Well, like they said, they kept not voting on him for 11 months, but 2 or 3 of those were after Trump had been elected, so that didn't count. So anyway, it was like 6 or 7 months is what they held off. And of course, the Republicans had the Senate at the time, and there's no way they would have gone through all this charade, as we say, of the hearings and everything, and then as they did with Bork or other people, they would have just said, no, we're no vote, or not going to vote him in, or whatever, reject him.
Right.
So, but basically the idea was, why poison the waters or whatever it is? We're just not going to have the hearings. It was bad enough.
Well, look, they're just doing politics. This is Robert's Rules of Order. You use all of your tactics against the other side. I don't blame them for knocking something out of committee or filibustering here or there, doing whatever.
Of course, what happened was that they had done previously under the Obama administration, when Harry Reid was head of the Senate, they had violated they had made the poison with the nuclear option. It used to have to take 60 to do something. No, then it was 50 plus 1.
Right.
So I guess it came back to bite them.
Right.
So anyway, we're going to say, anyway, it's my understanding that Mitch has announced already that the vote will take place in September. So they're going to call it up. They're going to have all the hearings, the bad words, whatever it is, all that kind of stuff. And then my understanding is, the rumor is that he's going to call for a vote in September. Now, I suppose this is now the Republicans are still plus 1 or 2 or whatever as far as the Senate is concerned. So if he can hold them all together without Susan Collins, defecting or something, or who's the other girl that is a liberal, I forget. Doesn't really matter. Susan Collins of Maine is the main one. But it's conceivable that, what would happen is basically, it could be a frozen out thing. If they have one defection, then it's a tie. Or no, it wouldn't be a tie. It would still be 50-49. So I guess they would have to have 2 defections, and then Pence would have to come in and break the tie. So they got some room to whoever he nominates is probably going to go in. And I think we talked about last time that, according to Ben Shapiro, the favorite is this woman who's supposed to be pretty good, and I don't know what her name is. I forget. So anyway, I just noticed here that Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, meanwhile, has celebrated her 85th birthday in March. So, which is 6 years from that, she'll be 91, and it would be interesting to see if she makes it that long. I mean, again, she'd be in fine shape and everything, and alert, and writing all her opinions and everything like that. But of course, then there are a couple of others that, you never can tell. I mean, when you start to get up into your high 80s, things can happen. So anyway, that is the current news, and we really probably won't hear much. I mean, there'll be some gnashing of teeth and so forth, I'm sure, from the libs on, that they're going to try and make a big hay out of this. The fact that
we'll see what happens at the hearings.
Right, and of course, I don't know when they're going to start those, because they have a huge summer recess. So I don't know what they do. I don't know how they're going to actually do that. But as I said, the announcement is supposed to be like the latter part of this week, and for the selection. So then then the hearings could start right away. They always have the potential justice go around and meet everybody, meet and greet, and hi, good to see you. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens. All right, moving on to continue also with a little bit on the red hen thing. Of course, Maxine Waters has decided, and we talked about this, I think, has decided to incite a riot.
Well, she walked it back a little bit.
Oh, did she?
Yeah.
Okay.
She walked it back. She said, don't. She tried to say that she never said what she said, basically.
Yeah. In this day and age, of course, when they have 1 million clips.
Well, okay, here's what this comes down to. This comes down to some definitions again. And when we talked about it.
What is the meaning of is?
Well, almost. And the difference between assault,
right,
for example.
Right.
Assault can be standing in front of someone yelling at them if they feel threatened and you have the present ability to attack them. That's it's an inference. It's kind of a subjective test, which is kind of dangerous.
If you're in their face.
But yeah, exactly. You have to be threatening. That's what it comes down to. But that's a little loosey goosey. I think a brighter line can be drawn in terms of why you are where you are when the assault happens. Okay, that is to say, if you have followed someone to a restaurant or to their home, the likelihood is much greater that what you're doing is harassment or stalking or assault, versus if you simply encounter someone at a protest or wherever, you can ostensibly yell at them, even obscenities,
right?
And it shouldn't be a problem. And
yeah, as long. Right, I can see that. I mean, we've seen some of this where, like in the restaurant, you know, there was another one other time where somebody hollered across the restaurant, you know, you bitch or something like that, and then walked out.
Well, but in that one there was the water thrown.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. The water throwing crosses a line. That's and that's what happened. Of course, last night I think it was, or the night before, there were some protests in Oregon, and the way I heard it, of course, was so there were these the alt-right put on the protest.
Oh, I saw that, yeah.
And the Antifa people came down there and to counter protest, and they noticed that the alt-right people were probably thirsty and hungry, so they offered them some water and eggs, and in a quick sort of. They wanted to distribute the supplies quickly, so they threw them to them, and then they also shared their 4th of July fireworks with the with the other protesters. So and none of that was appreciated. So it doesn't matter how much love the Antifa people are dishing out. They get.
Well, were there some arrests made and stuff?
Well, actually, the only 4 arrests that were made had nothing to do with the protest. They were for prior warrants and such.
Okay.
Now, in all seriousness, those types of activities, throwing eggs and water and throwing anything, when you cause someone to be touched by an object,
that's a battery.
That's a battery. So if you threaten them directly, that's an assault. And this is Florida law, and it's pretty consistent throughout the country. They have maybe some different names for it, but in our state, that's what it is. And battery is any unconsented touching. So even the spitting or water, that kind of stuff, that's all crime.
I found out also that one of the things that is a battery is when the cop hands your license back to you.
Right.
If you yank it out of his hand, that's a battery.
Yeah, that's like that's the slightest one. But yeah, you have technically caused them to be touched. If you gave them a paper cut or something as you snatched the ticket
with your plastic thing.
Well, yeah, maybe when they're handing you the ticket.
Right.
But. Either way, so the point is that is way over the line. Those things are over the line, and people need to recognize those definitions. There is no provocation defense. You can't be getting yelled at, and the guy's using every obscenity in the book, and you lose it, and you beat the crap out of the person, and then you go, Judge, I was doing fine, and then I just lost my temper because
guess what?
He said no.
Jail time.
Exactly. We live in a sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me kind of society, and that's where the line is drawn.
But we do. In other countries, of course, you don't anymore.
Well, no,
and hate speech or whatever it is. You know, you put a hot dog on a Muslim church and you go to jail or something like that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, like we said, that.
Well, that was another thing that they did arrest somebody. He'd thrown some feces, I think, or something at the Red Hen.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it landed on their sidewalk. They had a picture of it.
Right.
And so, but they arrested that guy.
Right.
So,
well, that reminds me of our sponsor today. This show brought to you by Antifa.
Well, now, you know, of course, I hate to say this. I'm an old person. But I still have not quite gotten the difference between the alt-right and the Antifas. Let's not go into it today, but I've tried to
those are just the labels for... Antifa stands for anti-fascist.
Okay.
They are super left, is what they are. They're the super left.
Okay.
Okay. The alt-right is a conservative group.
But why do they call it the alt-right, I wonder?
Because it's different. It's slightly different from the prior definition of conservatism. I can't remember which issue it is that they
Neither can I.
abandoned or have changed. It might be the war thing. No, because
what's interesting though is that they say the Antifa is anti-fascist,
right,
and yet fascism is a kind of a lefty thing in that it is, believe it or not, I mean it's totalitarianism,
yeah,
which is lefty.
Well, right, and yeah, it's ironic that they're called that. And look at this. This I wanted to show you. This is another image. So this is their handbook. Okay,
a handbook.
Yeah, of course. Well, there's nothing wrong with having a handbook. But do you notice the design there? Does that design look familiar to you in any way?
I'm looking at it off the side, of course, but it looks like a water buffalo trying to mate with a rhinoceros.
What? No. I'm talking about the orange and white stripes there.
You mean like the Japanese thing?
There you go.
The rising sun.
This is literally the Japanese imperial battle flag that they have used for for their anti-fascist.
These people, it's just so funny. Anyway, okay, that sort of explains it. But as far as I'm concerned, that these two groups, for one reason or another, half the time end up physically fighting each other.
Well, that's what it appears to be. From my perspective, it looks to me like the Antifa people are always doing the attacking.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, I had not.
It's different alt-right groups that they're attacking. They label the group alt-right, but the Antifa group.
Well, now the alt-right people are supposed to be the white supremacists too, aren't they?
I guess.
I don't know. I have to say, you need I guess you have to be 50, 60 years younger than I am now to understand what.
We'll do a Google search on it or something. Let's see.
Okay, so they arrested that. Let me finish that. Now
categories. Putting people in categories like that is always inspecific and
yeah. Well, it all changes. I mean, because it wasn't only not that within the last century, liberal was what almost libertarian in a way. I mean, the classical liberals, were people that were for free markets and stuff. And today, of course, they're big government type people. Which reminds me, I didn't bring it over here today, but I got today's Sunday paper here in the Gainesville, in our, this is Berkeley East, the commune of Berkeley East.
Right, where we are.
Where we are, right, in Gainesville. And
yeah, right. Actually, we're at the protest right now, as you can see.
Okay, good. So anyway, but that's interesting because they have a whole section called issues where people get to write in on, and just independent, regular old people get to write in. And there's maybe half a dozen or more articles plus an editorial. With one letter to the editor exception, everything was anti-Trump.
No.
Oh yeah, hard to believe. I mean, it was just amazing. The editorial page,
right?
The editors.
Well, look, after the news from last week, I mean, obviously, right after our last show, Trump got a gun, went into the Capitol Gazette and shot up those reporters.
Oh, right.
And then immediately tried to deflect blame onto the shooter.
Right.
When we all know it was the tweets.
Right.
And so
I thought the gun went in by itself.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's true. Well, it's true. I always tell people when you regulate guns, there's no such thing as regulating guns. You cannot regulate a gun. You only can regulate people who want to.
Same thing with drugs.
Right, exactly.
Drugs don't commit the crime.
Just yeah, you could have a war with 1 trillion guns on it and no people, and nothing would happen.
That's
nothing.
Right. You could have mountains of cocaine and nothing would happen.
Right, exactly. Nothing. Right, and I tell people also, even guns plus people. People don't understand how many guns we have per homicide per year in this country. Okay,
it's lots.
Yes. How many homicides do you think per gun? Per gun.
One.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. We'd all be dead in a year.
That's
of course.
right.
But no. For every 35,000 guns that we have in this country, we have 1 homicide every year.
Really?
Yes.
You're talking about we only have 100 homicides a year or something?
No. We have 10,000 homicides per year, but we have 350 million guns.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
So it is 35,000 guns. Think of all, and that's like a whole city's worth of guns and one homicide. And then when you factor in that most of those homicides, the vast majority of those homicides are in one of three different categories. It's either a drug-related incident, a gang-related drug incident, or a domestic violence type of thing.
What about suicide?
Well, I'm not counting suicide.
Okay, not counting.
Okay, suicide is a different thing, which we can get to at a different point, but I have a different argument about suicide related to Japan. Japan's suicide rate is way, way higher than ours, and they have no guns. No guns anywhere.
We commit seppuku?
Yeah. So it doesn't, those two things do not correspond either directly. It's cultural. And that's what goes on in our culture, and also what other people don't realize is that were there not a huge proliferation of guns in this country, the crime rate would be much, much higher, because criminals avoid doing crime because of the potential of getting killed. It is much easier to justify doing some type of violent crime if you know that you're the only one with the gun. That's why gun-free zones suck so bad. Yeah. And really what we should do is just allow the teachers to have guns.
Ooh, I'm not sure about that.
I have no problem with allowing them to have guns. And you can even have the certified, it could be the military ones. The military teachers who are ex-military, ex-cops. There's no question that there's a couple of extra teachers in every school. And all you need is one or two that has the gun. And they can have a safe or whatever it is. And that would be my thing. Now, I'm not saying arm teachers. I'm saying allow free Americans to protect themselves, especially the ones that are trained, and don't have a gun-free zone. I think having all the guns out of there, it's like if we said, well, we don't want nukes we don't want there to be any nukes, we don't want there to be nuclear war, so we're going to get rid of all of our nukes here in America, and then Kim and Xi and Putin still have theirs.
Hey, believe it or not, that would not bother me.
Okay, to me that would be almost suicidal.
Okay, well, the other thing, one of the things, and I'm going to bring this up here in just a second, is that, of course, I won't say it's pie in the sky, but that ain't going to happen.
No, of course. It's total hypothetical.
Because I'm going to
joke,
talk
actually,
about that. I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes. So anyway, this is a couple of things, two things that dovetail. Australia stresses the importance of good relations with China, its biggest trading partner. I didn't realize that. But lately, its actions have spoken louder than words. China's a furious production of submarines and other warships, very much in mind, and it's intended to defend against Chinese problems. So what they're doing is they're making submarine hunters. They're spending $29 billion on submarine hunters. This is Australia. Okay, I'm thinking, but it's Australia. I mean, they're way down under.
It's Australia, mate.
Well, of course, they were all worried because during the Second World War, the Japanese made a thrust down that way.
Right.
But are they really seriously thinking that the Chinese military is going to invade Australia? I mean, think about it. Australia is a vast wasteland.
Yeah, I was going to say, what do they have there?
What do they have? I mean, really, you turn Crocodile Dundee on them, and that's So I thought it was interesting. It's one of the most advanced anti-submarine warships in the world, said the Prime Minister. And I'm thinking, what are these guys doing? Well, by the same token, there was another article. Let me see if I've got it here. Here, our Navy. This dovetails with the nuclear business. Launched its most attack submarine ever. Apparently, this is its new nuclear attack submarine. Monday, June 25th, they delivered the USS Indiana to the U.S. Navy. It was laid a little over budget, but they've doubled the rate and so forth. And apparently, this is the sixth one of this particular attack submarine. But we've got like tens and tens of submarines. Now, these, I don't know exactly how many, but we've got a lot. And they're all nuclear, Trident, whatever the hell it is, ARM, MERV, everything. You don't have to, I don't think you'd have to have Missile 1 in the United States, because these submarines are, when you have that many.
Yeah, but that counts as in the United States on our subs.
Well, not if you happen to be off the coast of, China.
Well, okay. So, okay, right.
But my point is that there it would be some saving money or whatever. I wish they would turn all the couple when they've done it on a couple of them where they've taken the silos and sold them off to people, and they've made them into, like, I don't know, bomb shelters or homes or something.
Well, they cut back on nuclear bombs a bunch of times, and they expire as the.
But we have enough to, if they say the nuclear winter would last 1,000
Oh
years.
yeah, every Trident missile has, I think, 8 MIRVing warheads of like 800 kilotons each. It's a ridiculous amount of metropolitan area type of devastation.
Well, this is the 16th Virginia class submarine to be delivered, and also the 6th of the Virginia class Block 2, which apparently has all kinds of. They've redesigned it so that it's even more stealthy and more powerful and will kill more people and so forth. And I'm thinking, at what point, how many aircraft carriers and submarines do you need? I don't know. That's it's just, the war machine builds up. They got another billions and billions more money, and
yeah. Well, obviously, I think. Well, I don't know.
The price, difference between men and boys is the price of their toys. So, all right, let me move along here. Okay. This maybe I won't call these exactly light points, but 2 things have happened. We have a new czar in Florida. Now, this is one of the things that I think it's not like we don't have enough departments in Florida.
Nostrovia.
That's right. Florida's chief financial officer Jimmy Patronis believes the state needs to start keeping a closer eye on cryptocurrencies, initial coin and ICOs, otherwise known as initial coin offerings. That's why he created a position for a state-specified cryptocurrency czar, who will be in charge of looking at how current securities and insurance laws apply to digital currencies and ICOs. I mean, I'm thinking there is. Well, you realize that I don't know what the total market capitalization is of cryptocurrencies.
It's a couple $100 billion.
It's nothing.
Right.
I mean, it's nothing. I mean,
right.
Compared to currency.
Oh yeah.
Or bonds or Visa cards or whatever it is. Yeah. It's like 0.01%.
Oh yeah.
But as soon as it gets to a number, and this is one of the things that C. Northcote Parkinson talks about, was that when you get to numbers that are in the billions, people's eyes just glaze over, and you call an expert in, and they kind of try and lay it out, and then they make the decision. And as the amount of money retreats, in other words, the amount of time you spend on a budget thing is inversely proportional to the amount that's being spent. When you have $100 billion or a military, $600 billion, it's 5 minutes, it's all over.
Right.
We're done. And but what happened, what he said was, that's kind of humorous. And if you get a chance, you ought to read this book. It's called The Law by C. Northcote Parkinson. And it talks a lot about bureaucracies and governments and so forth. Tongue in cheek, easy read, available, used books, something. But what he said was that the amount of time spent on discussions in city councils or state, federal even, is inversely proportional to the amount of money involved, so that what happens is once it gets down to a couple of $1 million, big discussion. I mean, they go on for months and weeks and everything, because those people understand what $1 million is. I mean, they can relate to $1 million or $2 million. No, I mean, really, these people are making $1 million a year.
Yeah.
So this is real money to them.
Right.
And 10 million or something, they can understand what that's all about.
10 billion.
But 10 billion is like a number that's, it's like the number of stars in the galaxy. I mean, well, who knows? So, but what he also said was, the only time that'll change is when the discussion gets down to the price of a fancy dinner, and then it gets dismissed right away. If it's a couple of $100, and they're going to talk, no, we're not going to talk about that. But I've seen that kind of stuff down here in our local thing. They had a big discussion about waste disposal and the for contract, and the current waste disposal agreed on was, I don't know, a couple of $1 million, I think, something like that. But the discussion was over $10,000 difference between what they wanted. I mean, you'd have thought it was, we were discussing the fate of the known world or something. If you didn't, I mean, these guys went on and on. They, 2 or 3 meetings, and I finally went down. I said, "Well, because this, I'll write you a check. Just get out of here." So I just thought that was interesting that now we have This official will help.
That's your theory, and you're sticking to it.
Yeah, that's it. This official will also help conjure up crypto regulations for the state. In addition, all ICO, which are the public offerings, cryptocurrencies companies based in Florida, will now be required to register with the Office of Financial Regulation and under supervision of the new czar. And an announcement released by his office, this guy said, we need to provide an appropriate level of scrutiny, for the increasingly popular currency in order to protect the residents from becoming scams and so forth. And after all, Florida's huge senior citizen population is especially vulnerable to falling for their schemes, said the CFO. Now, as I say, it's always the elderly,
right,
or the children. Well, the children don't participate in this, so obviously they're going to protect us against the elderly.
Well, speaking of protection,
yeah,
I have an issue.
Okay.
Being that it's July the 1st.
Okay.
Today, the regulations out in California that have been promulgated under the new recreational marijuana Proposition 64,
okay,
which went into effect in January.
Right.
Now, today, July 1st, the first reports are due in terms of quality control and other regulations.
Okay.
Okay, here's what's happened, basically.
Tell me.
I have sad news.
Oh.
Yes. So, California, as many people know, had a medical marijuana statute in effect up until this last one. And everybody thought, oh, this is going to be great. It's going to be freedom out in California in terms of, recreational now. Not so fast.
Ooh.
The regulators have got their big paws in the mix.
Follow the money.
They have, rampant regulation and licensing increases and taxes and all sorts of, as they say, quality control measures and, yeah, exactly, fertilization techniques and whatever it is. They have effectively slashed the free market, marijuana market in California in half in 6 months.
I believe that.
Now, the illegal growers, of course, have come back online.
Sure.
And now you have 4 times as much black market product as there is white market product. 4 times as much illegal product as there is legal product because of this, just like I say, over-regulation, rampant regulation and taxation and lack of freedom. They're not going to, unfortunately, see the drop in organized crime that we were hoping for, or the drop in violence at the Mexican border, which they could alleviate in a matter of weeks if they would just let go of the control of these substances and let people do them on their own. And you don't have to turn into the streets of San Francisco. You don't have to give out needles and stuff to people. Right. But at the same time, to hold them back from this kind of a thing, for the money, as you said.
Yeah.
These guys got their paws in there, and it's going to cause some real damage before it's all over. So
yeah, no question. Well, I think that what they did is they saw what happened in Colorado when Colorado passed their law. As far as the total budget is concerned, it wasn't that much, but it was an extra, $50 million or something collected for the state.
Mm-hmm.
And so, anytime you see, as P.J. O'Rourke once said, money is to politicians like dung is to flies.
Right.
So they're never going to, I knew that was, when I saw that, I said, the first thing they're going to do is to regulate.
Well, that was part of the sell, was, hey, the municipality can get some money off of it. I mean, you had to kind of sell the politicians on that idea.
Well, they tried.
Everybody is down with regulations. Everybody's okay as long as it's regulated and taxed. But they don't understand that type of clamp on the system will literally prevent the violence from subsiding.
Right.
At the end of at the other side of the cause and effect.
Look, this is so typical. One thing that you can always count on with government regulations, the law of unintended consequences. It always appears. And with every single, no, seriously, every one.
Well, I think it's critical to recognize that the government is never acting outside of reality. You can't just you can't just have them say, "Oh, we're going to do this," and nobody's going to respond to it.
Right.
People will react to the government reacting. They are a player in the game.
Right.
And
that happens, of course. And it's funny because what happens, so the way this works is they do something, promulgate some safety thing, whatever it is.
Right.
It backfires.
Well, that's what this is. This is protection for the consumers, and they protected the consumers right out of the market.
Then what do? They come back in to cure the problem with some more laws, or they undo this tangle a little bit and put some new stuff in there. But what is amazing is that when these guys fail, as they must every time, because why? We're talking about a committee of people, I don't know how many you want to do, or even enough voters, when they do something like this, they cannot have the combined intelligence or knowledge of the masses. So they are doomed to do some kind of failure. People are going to get hurt. And so the first thing that happens, just about the first thing that happens, is they create a problem. And then in the idea of creating not a problem, a cure,
Mm-hmm.
they create a problem, and then you expect these people to come in and fix the problem? I mean, this happens all the time, and you sit there, get out of the rewind, and I don't say even start over, just rewind, and yet they never get that. They never get that true. They have one thing here, for instance, and they always have to address things new. As an example, a slight digression here. We have a sign ordinance.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had a sign ordinance in Gainesville for about 40 years, I think.
Mm-hmm.
There was no sign ordinance prior to that time, but signs started popping up that were offensive and so forth. I don't know exactly what it was, but they were getting too big. So they passed a sign ordinance. Well, I don't think a year has gone by that they have not amended the sign ordinance. Because why? Because people got around it. You know, when they passed these rules about certain sizes or placement or whatever. But I mean, as soon as that would happen, somebody would say, well,
I made my store into the shape of a sign.
Well, and not only that, they even got to the point where they wouldn't grandfather in old signs. And so people were keeping up their old signs, making sure that nothing happened to them, because otherwise, once you came down, you couldn't use them, you couldn't put them back up again. And these places signs have been there for 50 or 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting that they still revisit it. I know that when all of the LED signs started coming up, boy, I'll tell you, the hoorah started. Too bright, and they started passing. How many lumens can you have? It's like a noise ordinance. You go out there and you take your little light meter, and how many lumens can you have? It's for safety, cars, blare, whatever.
What might be an interesting constitutional amendment, or you wouldn't have to. It could be a statute to affect the municipality and county levels, and that is a mandatory sunset provision on every law.
Right.
And they can make it however long they want to, up to 10 or 15 years, something like that. But just mandatory sunset provisions, so that at the end of the day, stuff just goes away, and then they can figure out what
happens is, as those approach, the people the people that are protected by this particular law go down there and say, you can't let this expire.
Fine. That's fine.
At least there's a discussion.
Yeah, exactly. It raises the whole thing has to be done again, and the justification has to be marched out there. And that they would come up with a package plan eventually. They would have like a 10-year, we're going to include this in the 10-year package, and we're going to vote on all these things. But
we have them here all the time. We have one, I think, on the ballot this November. There's another half penny for schools. I think we had a penny or a half penny for the courthouse. It was a 1 year, I suppose, or 1 or 2 year thing or something like that. We've had a bunch of little surtaxes here on our regular sales tax, anywhere from a half a penny to a penny, and additional on our regular 6%. And these have sunset after anywhere from 5 to 8 years. Generally, they have another one now that's coming up for 13-year sunset. But what happens is, once you get that in there, and we've had some expire. I mean, I remember when our health care plan thing expired, it didn't do it was worthless. I mean, when you figured the amount of money collected,
fire and brimstone. That was when the volcano erupted.
Is that right? No, it's just interesting because you had heard the hoorah from the commissioners, not so much from the doctors or the people that were getting their health care, but the fact is, when it sunset after 8 years, and they had all this money, and it turned out they couldn't spend it. there weren't enough people to take advantage of it. I mean,
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
it was a boondoggle from day one, and so they finally, when it expired, they said, "Well, we really have to keep it up, and we're going to do." They had never gotten it right, and they
like I said, at least they would revisit it.
Yeah.
Hey, let's check and see, just for fun, if there are any messages. Oops.
No messages, huh?
Wait, no, I'm sorry. I'm messing it up.
When out with friends, you could tell the truth or a better version. Did you know that it's important to keep your stories interessante?
This is not our commercial. Doesn't look like it.
Okay. Next time.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
That's our pause for the moment. I really only have one more little light note, and I'm kind of, this is a legal thing, and I'm kind of curious what you think about it.
Okay.
The Wisconsin man plan to use a shoe camera to take photographs up women's skirts was foiled this week when a battery exploded and injuring the man and causing him to rethink his pervy plan. When the explosion happened, he got treatment for minor burns and then disclosed what happened to his mentor, a clergyman. But anyway, they arrested him. And apparently, I don't know if it's a felony. Yes, it's a felony under Wisconsin law, carrying a penalty up to 3.5 years, combined prison and extended supervision. He had not managed to take any illicit pictures before the gear self-destructed, which means he had not actually committed a crime. So the police explained the serious consequences and sent him on his way. So my question: what's the story on that legally? Upskirting.
Right. Well, here's what it comes down to. It's probably not illegal to have a camera in your shoe. The question is, they said he hadn't taken any pictures.
Right.
So
that's why they let him go.
Well, right. And so the question is, how do they know that that's what he was going to do with the camera? And my guess is they saw him walking around scouting out some girls.
Yeah, and maybe it blew up under the girl's dress or something.
Well, okay, sure. And so those things are a crime. That's attempted upskirting. And so if you take substantial steps towards the completion of your crime, that's enough to be convicted of the crime itself. You don't have to go through with the whole thing.
So what is the crime of upskirting?
Well, it's voyeurism.
Okay.
It's probably there are a lot of states that have recording people without their permission types of statutes.
You're talking about underpants, for God's sakes.
Right, which makes it worse. What?
Worse than what? Than the porno that's on?
Worse than. I mean, you cannot in a lot of states record someone just record their image without their permission.
I mean,
or record their voice. If I take my voice recorder.
No, I know the voice part.
Okay.
I know that in some states you have to have both ends.
Right.
Acquiesce.
Right.
Is Florida one?
Yes. For voice. Yes. Now Florida, you can do images in some ways in Florida. I don't want to.
Well, now you can record though your police interaction, can't you? And if they stop you and they come to your door, your window, and you say, "I'm taping you."
Right. I'm pretty sure that they can say, "Turn that off," and you have to.
Really?
Yeah.
Doesn't seem quite right.
Yeah. Well, exactly. And there's not a lot of leeway. There's not a lot of freedom.
Well, let me ask you this:
recording people's images.
I don't know of anybody who doesn't have a dash cam.
Right.
So it's run all the time.
Right. Well, that's why I said there's some limited exceptions. And what it comes down to is your appearance in public, basically, in the state of Florida, is not private. You're not guarding it in any way. And so if someone sees you or takes a picture of the street and you just happen to be in it or whatever it is, you don't have any privacy interest in that you can protect.
All the time, though, I see them blank out the faces and everything.
Well, that's because they're using it for commercial purposes. If you were to take the picture and make a commercial out of it, you have to get everybody's permission that's in the...
Well, now, how about if you snap somebody from the back? You couldn't, because you don't know who that is.
Right, and and they wouldn't know who.
No, but I mean, they could say that was me. I was wearing that dress on that day. And you say, yeah, prove it, right?
And I mean, so yeah, it comes down to they wouldn't do that. Like, if you're going to use a picture for commercial purposes, you make sure that every single person in the frame is
signs of release.
Exactly. I do background work for TV shows. All those people you see walking around back there, they're all paid actors.
Yeah.
So. That's the way videos are, and images, any type of commercial image. So, but just a regular old thing. And like you said, a police interview may be an exception, especially in certain states. They may have state statute which says if you're being, and then they ought to have an express. It ought to be like, everybody knows their Miranda rights. Everybody should know what they're allowed to do when they're getting arrested by the police. They should know.
My lawyer.
Well, yeah, but they should. That's what you say for sure. I
want my lawyer.
Exactly. Is it okay if I say no? But what you should know as well is, as you say, can you record the situation?
Well,
can you record it visually, audially, both? Can you curse? What language do you use? Or is there a particular? Can you say the word cop? Like for a long time, I thought cop was a bad word. I was like, cop, because it's just short for police or something. I don't know.
It's short for copper.
Well, it's constable on patrol or something. It's
that's one of the things. But originally, it came from their copper buttons in England.
Okay, so there you go.
Yeah.
So
like we call our people up and down the highway Smokies, because they're hats.
Oh, because they look like Smokey Bear?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they, I got a, hey, big brother, I got a Smokey up ahead.
You can say bear, we call them bears, but not pig, but...
Yeah.
So, that's how it is. But, let's see.
Well, so let me, but they have, of course, all over the internet, they have this PINAC group. Photography is not a crime.
Okay.
And they show stuff all the time from people's video cameras or stuff like that of horrendous things happening.
Right.
And I know that I don't know exactly, but you especially see the videos when they stop at a station, the Border Patrol, which is a lot of people don't realize this, but the border of the United States extends for 100 miles inland.
Right.
And of course, that means the entire state of Florida
is on the border.
On the border, right? I mean, you could drive down I-75 to Orlando and get stopped.
In the center of the state,
and you're still on the border, right?
Yeah.
You still get stopped. But I've seen them stopped all the time. I know that just as one little aside, and I'm just about done with what I got to say. I was driving across country with my wife's mother-in-law and my wife. Mrs. Jimmy and her sister. There were 4 of us in the car, and we were stopped at a border, coming across I-10 or something like that, and we were stopped at one of these border control places, and I said to them, "Well, I'm gonna talk to these guys in Spanish." And they panicked.
Yeah.
They thought, "Oh my God!" So the guy says, of course, then we stopped, and the guy said, "Are you an American citizen?" I went, "See." They hid under the seats. They thought for sure we were going to be strapped.
Yeah, and hiding under the seats is not a good idea either.
Huh? No. I'm afraid though. But I mean, it was obvious on its face. I had, a lady 95.
You kind of look a little Spanish. No,
no, not hardly. But I scared the poop out of it. It was so funny.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do that again. Anyway, that was humorous. You got anything else?
That's all I have.
Okay, the only other, I'm just trying to think. Nope, that's it. We'll have to wait. Wednesday, we should be back on Wednesday.
Okay.
4 o'clock, and please give us a like and write some comments on the video once it gets all uploaded.
Yeah, I may have to upload a better copy. I think it's streaming out okay, but it looks like we've had a couple of problems here and there. So we'll see.
This looks bad. The shadow is not good.
I don't know. It looks fine. Hey, where did our... Okay, well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Please share if you like. Leave us a comment. Send us an email.
Yeah, if you see something you really need to talk about, let me know. There was a lot more news that I started to download, but some of it was pretty trivial stuff.
Yeah, I didn't see much happening this week.
And not going to happen because next week is July 4th.
Yeah, you never know.
You never know, right? That might be just the time they start to announce things.
Oh, what the?
You know, they always have the dumps on Friday nights. The news dumps on Friday nights. Well, we have the equivalent of that three times this week. You know, so
right.
they dump it out on July 4th. Like, who's going to watch it?
All right. Well, we'll see you next time.
Yep.